Hi everyone, I'm Gordon Burkell from Filmmaker U. At Filmmaker U, we create courses for film professionals to deepen and diversify your existing skill set. You can check it out at filmmakeru.com. Every week we have an event where we have a professional come in and chat and give you a chance to join us and ask questions. Today I'm joined by James Mathers, cinematographer for The US versus John Lennon, How Bruce Lee Changed the World, Beautiful Dreamer, Brian Wilson in The Story of Smile, and he's also the co-founder of Digital Cinema Society, amongst so many other things. Hi James, welcome to the show.
How are you? Thanks for
Pretty
having
good,
me on
thanks.
today.
Can you, I guess, tell us a bit about the Digital Cinema Society?
Well, boy, it's going on 18 years now. It's started as a bit of a hobby, but it's been very consuming the last few years. It started because, as you said, I'm a cinematographer, and most of my background, although you mentioned some of the documentaries that I did, most of my background is shooting indie features. And if you're shooting indie features, they want it because it's inexpensive and fast. And so I was a pretty early adopter to shooting movies on HD, and I was asked to speak about it and that sort of thing. And I was started to get frustrated that there was so much misinformation going on about it. Like some of the manufacturers were saying, with digital, you don't have to light anymore. And as a cinematographer, that just really, you know, uh, ground my. Anyway, it irritated me.
Yeah.
Want to keep the dialogue clean here. Um, but so some friends and I, we got together and we did a little documentary. Uh, it was a labor of love, and we were trying to just clear the air. We got an interview with some people that were doing, high budget at the time, like James Cameron and George Lucas and Robert Rodriguez, and a lot of the people that I was working with in the indie world, and Alan Davio, ASC. And we created a nice little half-hour documentary. And at that time, DVD was the way to distribute things. So Photochem made 2,000 DVDs that were given away free of charge. And I was very proud of the production, but it was starting to become obsolete even before we could finish it because things were changing so fast. So that's why we decided to do an ongoing thing. Myself and Brian McKernan, who you may remember, who was the um, editor, the publisher of Digital Cinema magazine. That's where we got the name Digital Cinema Society. And but we never have advocated for digital over film. It's always just about trying to find the right tools, trying to keep the industry current on motion picture technology because it's changing so fast, especially for working professionals, that they just can't keep up with it. So, I'm not an expert in anything. I'm just sort of a jack of all trades filmmaker, and mostly cinematographer. But I go and try to find the people that know what they're talking about, and then bring that to our members and to the community at large. And so we have a membership organization. It's about 7,000 members all around the world, mostly concentrated in Los Angeles and Chicago, and but many others in other parts of the world. Mostly because I live in Los Angeles, we have most of our live events here, but we record everything we do and we put it on the web, which was especially handy when we couldn't have our live events anymore, or do our trade show coverage like at NAB.
Well, that's a perfect segue because you also just released a video on COVID safety and getting back to work safely. So, can you tell us about putting together that video? Um, I guess where can people check it out because it's an important video, and
Well,
just what you learned in making it.
all of our videos, you can find links to them on our website, which is digitalcinemasociety.org. And that one was, a topic that everybody, wanted to find out about. We're all eager to get back to work on set. But we found that there was also a lot of misinformation in that arena. I originally got, you know, uh, aware of the seriousness of COVID because a friend of mine, Alan Davio, ASC,
Hmm.
was one of the early victims of it. He passed away in, I think it was March of last year. And Alan hadn't been in good health, the last few years. He was living at the motion picture home. And so he was an easy mark for COVID. However, a Steadicam operator that I use, Jeff Mulstock, also, he's a young man. You can't sling a Steadicam around all day and be not in good health. And, he almost died from it. And so, I was aware, and I took it very seriously from the very beginning, and I wanted to try to help other people to take it seriously and to see what ways we could adopt to try to deal with it, to try to get back to work as soon as possible, but safely. So we got interviews with a COVID compliance officer to find out what they're doing to keep everybody safe on set. We got an interview with Michael Cioni from Frame.io, who's always been a leader in doing cloud workflows, and found out a little bit about how they're dealing with this kind of thing. We got an interview with a rep from Panasonic who talked about a remote production and the ways that that's advanced. And a company that I work with in lighting, Luminous, they make lightning strikes and other types of HMI lights. They found that they could use their lights to kill the virus, and they figured out a way to treat the air. So they have a system that they've developed where the air flows in and gets cleaned in a safe way, and then comes out around where the people are working. So, but the main point is that it's not one thing that's going to keep us safe. It's that you have to do all these things, and even if you're cleaning the air, and even if you're, doing all the things that the COVID compliance officer demands, wearing masks and washing your hands and, and getting checked, you still have to do everything else. And right now we're starting to get vaccinated, and that's terrific, but we're not out of the woods yet. We still have to be safe, and I want to encourage everybody to do that, but get back to work at the same time.
What are some of the misconceptions that you learned about that maybe we can clear the air about those?
Oh, well, that you don't have to wear masks. That's one thing that's become a political thing here in the States. It's crazy. I don't know why people would make that an issue. And now there's, even that's going to vaccination. Some people don't want to get vaccinated because, they're, it's not their politics, and that's crazy to me. But anyway, I can't argue with that. That was, one of the main kind of things is people that just weren't taking it seriously.
Wow. Now with the Digital Cinema Society, how are you guys tackling the new virtual productions? Because that seems to be really exploding in popularity, but I haven't been on one yet, so I haven't been able to experience the dome or whatever or the void or whatever they're calling it.
Well, we used to do a lot of live events, and we record them, like I mentioned. Also, a big part of our activities every year was going to the trade shows like NAB, and we do interviews. We did the last NAB that we did, I guess it must have been 2019. We shot 64 different interviews, and we roam the halls and do these interviews about new technology. And we had an editor across the street. That might not be necessary next time. We might be able to just, send it to the cloud. But we've been doing this for many years, and we had an editor across the street, and we feed him the files, and he gets the videos up in like, an hour or two, so that everybody that can't make it to Las Vegas can find out what's new at NAB. And we also do the same thing at Cinegear Expo. But when we found out we couldn't do that, we had to, pivot and start creating videos. So we did an interview series, which, much like we're recording here, which we called it our Digital Cinema Society Technology Spotlight Series. And we did about, 50 interviews that way with some of the same people that we would have covered at NAB. And we did that just about a year ago, around the time NAB would have been. But can't do that. So and I think people are, getting a little tired of webinars. I like interviews like this, but webinars, I don't know, it's getting a little old to me. So we decided that we would start doing these documentaries, like the COVID documentary. And another one that I'm working on right now, I actually started this before the pandemic, but it had to be shut down, is on large sensor cinematography. I was shooting yesterday with Snehal Patel from Zeiss and with Julio Macat, ASC. And also I've interviewed Steve Yedlin, ASC, and Nancy Schreiber, ASC, to get all their different perspectives on large format cinematography, not just the pluses, but the challenges, and there's also a lot of misinformation in that area. And I like to attack the subjects that there's a lot of misinformation. And that brings me to virtual production. That's our next documentary.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I'm going to have to keep an eye out for that.
Hold on just 1 second.
Sure.
Oh, come on. There, I can hear you again.
Yeah, sorry. I'm going to have to keep an eye out for that. Sorry?
So we're working with Sam Nicholson. He's been a real leader in doing this. And I also will probably cover the people that are working on The Mandalorian, but I know that that's already been done quite a bit. And so I always, I try to get to areas where people aren't, so aware. And there's a lot of other people doing virtual production now. But again, there's misinformation. Like a lot of people are saying, oh, you don't need green screen anymore. You don't need, visual effects, post-production visual effects artists, painting and all that sort of thing. You don't need nuke artists, but it's not true. You still need all these things working together. I mean, it saves a lot of time, and if you can put everything, on a screen and shoot it live. But there's challenges too. So, I try to show the good and the bad and get away from the hype. I think that's one of our major things that we try to do, is cut through the hype.
Now, as you mentioned, you like to work with independent features. And I feel that there's going to be a lot of desire to use these. Do you think you'll see that in independent features ever? Or do you think the price will come down in cost? Or will there be, I guess, an even better question, will there be a lower budget version that people start to pick up?
I think so. Like technology, always it's getting, less expensive and easier to use. And that's just going to continue. Right now, you could shoot against a large screen TV, and put a background on there. But it's a lot more complex what they're doing with, these virtual sets, like on Mandalorian. They're using tracking information that comes from the lens and comes from the camera, and they're feeding that into the computer so that the background moves in relation to how the camera's moving. You can rack focus, and the focus will blur in the background as well. So it's a lot more sophisticated, but you could do something simple where just, shooting against a monitor, and it's all computers and it's all electronics, and it's just getting more and more interesting as we go.
It's the magic in the box.
Yeah, but I hope low budget filmmaking gets easier. It's a tough way to make a living. I've been doing it for a long time, and I shot a lot of film. I used to have 35 millimeter camera packages, and I shot about 40 movies on film. And like when you were reading my credits, you read some of the documentaries, because those got more of a release than a lot of the movies I did. It was like they get released on home video. So I really love it, but it's just, it's a tough go,
What is it you love about it? What is it that?
I just love storytelling, but, documentaries also have been, helped me make a living between movies. And it's just really low budget, or I like to say indie movies, sounds better. Yeah. It's a tough way to make a living, and it's getting worse and worse. I mean, the budgets have been going down instead of up,
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's why I was wondering if you'd see like because again, maybe this is part of the misconception, because it's like, oh yeah, the virtual production is going to bring costs down because you're working less, but whenever I see the footage, there's like a team of coders sitting there working in Unreal Engine.
Yeah, we have
Like,
to
I don't know,
create
that
those
seems impressive.
backgrounds, you know,
Yeah.
and
So
that's not easy. And right now, I think one of those operations is over $1 million
yeah.
to set up, I would guess. Um, but you know, it'll come down to where you can, you know, buy it at Costco.
Yeah. Well, and so I guess from when you're working with a director, when you're starting out on one of these indie projects, how do you get on the same page with them?
Uh, a lot of times we would use visual references. Like I have a director that likes to find an art book, and he says, "I want this kind of a feel," you know. And we look through the art book,
Mhm.
and then others will, you know, will play videos of other films that we like or we like the style of, and you know, we like this part of it, this scene, but we don't like this, and you know, just it's taking visual references. There's a great website now where you can somebody's catalog tons and tons of little snippets or stills. I wish I knew the name of it right now to tell you, but you probably know. If you do,
No,
please
I
please
don't.
please tell me.
Yeah.
He's just taken you know, like still frames from lots of famous movies, and that's a great way to just go through and, you know, come up with visual references, because you know, it's hard to communicate these feelings and, you know, what kind of a look you want, but that helps. That's usually how I start, and I always like to do a lot of testing before I do a project, you know, and even if I have to throw in my time and throw in equipment or whatever, I like to go out and test and try to run it through post, and you know, if it's a feature film, try to run it all the way to the big screen, you know.
Yeah. Wow. Now, um, when you're, because you were saying that like you've done documentaries, you've done uh, fiction film or indie films. How do you approach them differently as a cinematographer, or how do you like to approach them differently?
Well, on the documentaries, it's more just like collecting, you know. It's not usually so much of you're not going for a look or anything. You're just trying to get as many interesting, you know, people in front of the camera as you can. I mean, you make them look as nice as you can. I don't get, you know, this isn't on my resume or anything, but I do a lot of celebrity interviews. Um, and that's like from promotion and that kind of thing. And
Mm.
that helps me make a living between these movies, or it allows me to have the luxury of working for little pay on indie movies. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but so you just try to make the people look as good as they can, and you know, try to help the directors get as much, you know, as collect as many, you know, good interviews as they can. You know, don't be a pain in the butt. You said the U.S. Versus John Lennon. That we shot a lot of those, most of the interviews green screen, and sometimes we, you know, I had a little pop-up green screen. We'd go in, I had put a Kino Flow on each side, light them with two lights, you know, and then in very small spaces sometimes, and we'd only have, you know, a few minutes to get in and out to shoot people like Walter Cronkite, or you know, various other people that had to do the story. We spent a lot more time on Yoko Ono. As a matter
Yeah.
of fact, I had to fly back to New York 3 times to shoot her, because she kept changing, you know, what she wanted to say, and she was very particular.
Yeah.
So they
Is
didn't
there
just find somebody local for that. I had to go back. It was
is
fun.
is there a particular celebrity that you got starstruck with?
Well, that goes back to my child acting days,
Okay.
and you know, my brother, older brother, was a sort of a child star. I don't know if you're in Australia, right?
No, Canada.
Oh, Canada,
So
excuse me. So
yeah,
you probably heard of Leave It to Beaver.
yeah,
He
yeah.
played the Leave It to Beaver character, and I did a little bit of acting. Uh, but one of the best experiences that I ever had, the most impactful to me, was meeting Walt Disney. I worked on a
Wow.
Walt Disney movie when I was 6 or 7, and he, you know, would take a special interest in coming around to the set every day, and he gave me a tour of the studio, and next to his office there was a giant room filled with a scale model of Epcot Center, which hadn't been built. And I walked down the hall, and they were making Mr. Lincoln, you know, that gives the Gettysburg Address, the robotic. And he didn't have any clothes on. It was just a robot, you know, and they were working out the movement. And that was to appear in the 1964 World's Fair. That's where it started before they moved it to Disneyland. So I don't know if you've ever seen that, but it was just, you know, getting to be in the back lot and be around the studios, you know, it was a lot of fun for me. I didn't have to work every day like my brother did, you know. That was a grind, and I'm glad I was never famous. It's not an easy thing. I could see it, you know, from seeing him. But a long answer to your short question is I was most interested to meet Walt Disney.
Wow. And why did you go from acting to cinematography? Like, why did you choose to make that?
I got ugly.
Okay.
No,
you got rugged
I was always,
looks. I don't know.
I was always exposed to it, you know.
Yeah.
And so I had a little bit of interest in it. And I was also interested in journalism. And I could have gone either way. And so now it's sort of coming all full circle. I get to do a little bit of writing, you know, and covering and trade writing, you know, for Digital Cinema Society. But I've always been sort of a visual person. And like I said before, I don't specialize too much. I do a lot of different things. I do a lot of directing and producing, and I do editing. I actually, you know, after my child acting jobs, my first job was being an editor, well, an assistant editor. It was literally writing down time code numbers on the first electronic videotape editing system for the Frost-Nixon interviews when David Frost first interviewed Richard Nixon. Yeah, they didn't have, you know, the machines didn't keep track of it. I had to be in the dark, writing in number, out number, you know, time code. It was a terrible job also. But, and then I became an operator on that system. But I didn't, and it was educational because being an operator, I usually had an experienced editor sitting behind me telling me where to cut. So I got a feel for that. But I really didn't like being locked in a darkened room all day under pressure, you know? Yeah. And so that's when I decided to make a definite move to get out of there and into cinematography.
Wow. Now I have one last question that I'd like to ask everyone during this COVID time. A lot of people have, because we're locked in our houses, have been watching a lot of streaming services. And so I'm wondering if you've seen anything over the past year that you would recommend people check out.
Oh, the chess drama.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name of it now. Yeah, but I know which one you're talking
King's Gambit, or Queen's Gambit.
Yes, Queen's Gambit, yeah.
I should know but no, that's just a wonderful program. And, you know, all the movies that are up for Academy Awards this year are streaming right now, day and date. So it's pretty nice that we're able to see all those.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for letting me interview.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Always like to get the good word out about Digital Cinema Society. So if anybody wants to check it out, please visit digitalcinemasociety.org.